Glock hate is at an all-time high. But when you look at their sales, it does not reflect it whatsoever. When you look at SIG, I actually spoke to a couple companies nearby. I can only speak for those companies. They said their sales for SIGs have been dropping dramatically. Now, that's just them. And I asked them about Glocks, even somebody who was a SIG fan there. I asked them about Glock sales. They said it's the same. It never changes. Now, why is that for a company that has zero innovation? Does not change their models. Everything looks the same, and they're lacking in a lot of areas. First off, we're going to talk about reasons why I do agree with the hate, right? The Gen 5, for example. Let's take a look at this. What's wrong with it? One, the optics plate system. It's pathetic. Just give us the Gen 5 MOSs. Give us maybe like 2 different slide cut options, right? 2 different optic cuts, obviously an RMR, and maybe one other. Just give that to us. Don't give us a plate system. Force us to use just a couple different options. And if people want to get their own plate system, that's fine. They can go from there. But do not give us this crappy plate system that doesn't even line up with the serrations. I mean, look at that. It looks ridiculous when it doesn't even line up. Next up, you're on your 5th generation of subcompacts. You have a rail on the 43Xs and the 48s, but you're telling me you couldn't get a rail on the Glock 26? That's ridiculous. That's just, it's insane. Next up, their sights. Obviously, we all know their sights are garbage. But what's interesting about that is, where's it at? I have a Glock 36. I don't know why I'm carrying it today, but those are metal sights. Glock could easily just put metal sights in there and call it a day, but they don't even do that. They won't even give us metal sights. I'm not sure why they want people to go out and spend more money and swap out parts right from the factory. And we're going to touch on the good stuff here shortly, because there's a lot of good that outweighs the bad. Next up, texturing. Notice I put grips or stippling on every handgun that I carry often, right? And that's just how it is. There's a couple I haven't gotten around to, but there's grips on them. And that's because there's zero texturing. You're telling me you couldn't even do something like this? Come on. You know they can. We all know they can. But they choose not to. When it comes to people saying, oh, it's the same system, it's not a chassis system, I don't care about a chassis system. I care about a reliable handgun that's easy to maintain and be simple, right? And that's what a Glock is. It is the easiest handgun. If you ever are in a crap hits the fan situation, if things ever turn south, or go south and turn crazy, this is the easiest gun to repair. You can swap out every single part in this handgun in under 5 minutes. Every part, the internals, the mag release, the slide stop, I mean everything, slide stop, takedown lever, every single part within 5 minutes. It is the easiest handgun to clean, the easiest handgun to take apart and reassemble. On top of that, if you notice, Glock offers every single caliber. Let me say it again, every single caliber. You know, FN may have a 45, a 10 millimeter and stuff like that, but in terms of still in production, subcompacts, full sizes, compacts, you can get almost every caliber. One, they have a 22 long rifle, which is going to be their Glock 44. Then you step it up to 380. You have something like the Glock 42. They have a pocket pistol in 380. Then you step it up again. You have a subcompact, the Glock 28 and 380. This is one of the flattest shooting and smoothest handguns that I own to date. It is so easy to be accurate with. It is not even funny. If people, have weak hands or, have had surgery or whatever the case may be, you cannot beat a Glock 28. Then they have the Glock 25 and 380, which they just discontinued, but that's 15 plus 1, a compact of 380, an absolute beast of a setup. Next up, you have 9mm. Of course, they have 9mm options, right? You have the Glock 26, Glock 19, Glock 45, 19X, 17. You can go on and on and on. And they're just smooth as can be. A Glock and 9mm, once again, smooth as can be. Then you have a 40 Smith & Wesson that they still produce. They still produce the 27, the 23, the 22, and you can go on and on. And if you're wondering what wholesale this is the Flex Rig from Blacksmith Tactical. Code SPN for 10% off. I decided to go with the double discrete carry clips and a claw. And yeah, heck of a setup. That's code SPN for 10% off. Then from there, you have stuff like 357 SIG. I don't know of any other companies that are still producing a 357 SIG. And it's rare to find some companies out there actually supporting 40 with multiple models. So once again, that's a big, big win, and in multiple sizes. Then you have stuff like 45 GAP. Yes, I know no one carries it. It is what it is, but it's still a cool collector's item to have to complete your subcompact collection. And it's a round made by Glock, so if you are a Glock fanboy, it's a pretty cool gun to just have and, not really do much with. Maybe take to the range every now and then, shoot some buffalo bore out of it, and that's that. But when you really look at the ballistics of 45 GAP for what it is and what they're trying to do with it, it's actually a really cool and solid idea. It just never took off. Then you have 45 ACP. Where is my Glock 30 SF at? Right here. Glock 30 SF. So they basically make a subcompact with the flush mag that's 9+1. Then they make full sizes, compacts of 45 ACP. Then, last but not least, you have 10 millimeter. Now, I could have sworn I just had my 10 millimeter on here, but here it is right here. You have a 10 millimeter. So you have stuff you can bring in the woods or carry that will literally get you out of any situation in North America. Flush mag, 9+1 to 10 millimeter, all the way to larger. So one of the smaller 10 millimeters on the market for concealed carry. They literally offer everything for everybody, and that's huge for some of these mag restricted states. Getting more capacity, getting 9+1 out of a 357 SIG, getting 9+1 or 10+1 out of a 45 ACP, getting 9+1 or 10+1 out of a 29. Because if you're in a mag restricted state, you want the most power possible, right? Then we'll talk about their stuff when it's sold. Stuff like the Glock 22 was one of the most popular carried handguns by law enforcement. Same with the Glock 23. Same with, as a backup, the Glock 27. So you can go anywhere online right now and find a Glock 22 or a Glock 23 for $250 to $350. People always say, oh, the price of Glock is too much. Well, I'll tell you this. Their internals are made right. They're not made in Indonesia, and then they tell you they're made somewhere else. No, these are actually true internals. Their internals are built to last. Their quality. I mean, mess around with the internals of some of these other handguns, and you'll see real quick who actually uses good quality parts. And it's so simple, like I said, to take apart and put back together that anybody can do it. And once you know one of their handguns, you know every handgun. You can have every model of Glock, take it down the exact same way, take out every single part the exact same way, put them all together the exact same way. Plus parts from handguns, like 70% of part kits, match up with other Glocks. The only difference between like a Glock 26 and 9mm is that basically that guide rod. That's it. And obviously the barrel, you get what I'm saying. But what's interesting is I can take this Glock 19 slide and put it in my Glock 26. I can take this Glock 19 barrel and put it in my Glock 26, and it runs flawlessly. And you can get hybrids that'll look like this. Right? So you can make stuff. You can mix match. The Glock 43X, I can take this lower, put it on a Glock 43. I can put a Glock 43 upper on this. I can put a Glock 43 upper on a 48. I can put a Glock 43X upper on a 48. I can put a 48 upper on a 43. So there's all these interchangeable things. A Glock 27 can take a conversion barrel. So you can make it a 9mm and a Glock 26. You can take a 9mm Glock 19 size barrel and make it a, a Glock 19 with a conversion barrel for that size. You can make a 357 SIG. You can turn it into a Glock 32. You can turn it into a 23 in terms of using larger mags. The uppers, I mean, you can interchange all these parts with each other. And it's absolutely amazing. And that's why they don't change their system. Because once again, I have like 10 part kits upstairs that, lots of the parts are interchangeable between a lot of these different handguns. And a lot of people hate on Glock, but yet they're producing some of the best handguns out there. If Glock was never made, I don't think we'd be getting handguns like the RXM and all these other great firearms out there, where they basically just add a twist and change a couple things up because the Gen 3 patents, basically gave out. Therefore, they were allowed to copy it. Like I said, Glock has a lot of great things going for them. Reliable. Also, the grip angle. The grip angle really helps you with recoil. If it's straight up and down, you're going to have more push at you. But it's so aggressive already, it's angling your hand forced at the recoil. If you really look at it, think about straight up and down, or like this. It's more pushback coming at you, but because you already have the grip angle at that angle, it helps fight recoil. That's just facts. That's just science. So there's a lot of great things going for Glocks, even though there are a lot of major changes. But in terms of reliability, their tolerances are so perfected on Glocks. Having such loose tolerances in the right areas, it allows you to swap out parts from all sorts of different companies and have zero problems with it. I was running my RXM slide on my Glock 26. You can run, different frames like this Lone Wolf frame right here. Trigger Shark triggers, code SPN for 15% off, the best triggers in the game. For Glocks, absolutely love it. You can mix match and make whatever you want, and they typically run reliable. You typically don't see any issues simply because of those tolerances. It allows you to, whereas a lot of other companies have such tight tolerances, you swap out one part here or there and you have a major disaster on your hands. It just is what it is. But Glock also lacks in new models, right? A lot of these are thick and heavy and aren't competing. You have the Glock 43X, which is 10+1 with a flush mag. Right here's a Hellcat 15+1, and it's an OEM mag. So made for this gun by this company. Glock needs to head in that direction here shortly. I get keeping all this stuff on. Keep all these models with the polymer mags. Start branching off, though. Give us something like a Hellcat, a Micro 9. Give us, like a P365 XL size handgun from you guys with a metal mag. Start up now with that new series, where you make a big splash. At the end of the day, it is a business and about money, and I see the amount of people leaving Glock behind and not liking Glock anymore and can't stand Glock. But there is a reason Glock is where it's at. And that's, regardless if you see, if this gun over here had this problem, this gun got blown up over here, even though you don't know what ammo they were using, if it was hand-loaded, there's a lot of, you see a picture, but you don't know the backstory of that. You don't know the situation. There's firearms that blow up everywhere. There's one thing about Glocks that will never change, and this firearm is the safest system on the market. 3 internal safeties. You will never, ever have a firearm go off. And that's extremely important to me because I have 3 young kids, and they sit right about waist height. So having a reliable handgun while it's pointed downward is extremely, important to me. And this is going to be one of the safest handguns you could ever have. If you're ever in a defensive situation, you're tussling, you're rolling around, you're wrestling, this thing is not going to go off by itself. You can always trust quality parts. Now, every company has lemons. But generally speaking, when I spoke to my range, they said their Glocks are just ridiculous. And then they said their SIGs, SIG got so fed up of replacing their handguns at a rental counter that they just sent them a bag of springs and said, do it yourself. Meanwhile, their Glocks, might need a new slide stop at $12,000, new, barrel at, 25,000, whatever. Stuff just lasts on their Glocks. And that's at a rental range. So people are renting it every single day and shooting hundreds and thousands of rounds through it every single day. And they just last and last and last. They may not be the prettiest on the eyes. They may not, do it all, like I said, in terms of features. But when you're really coming down to it and you want a good, reliable handgun, typically speaking, obviously every company has lemons, like I said, Glock will be there for you when you need it. For the range, yeah, I'm all day, a Prodigy, all these other handguns. But when it comes down to everyday carry, I got to go with my old trustworthy. I carry my Springfield, so I carry my LCP Maxes. But at the end of the day, my main carries typically are Glock still. And that's why. And if people don't like it, it is what it is. I understand why in terms of features and stuff like that. But when you're talking about